Hey, what's going on, everybody? We'd like to welcome you all to Salty Talk. We are so excited for our subject matter today, and I got my two amazing co-hosts, so we're like a triple threat. You got myself, Jerome, we got Erica over here, and then we also have the illustrious Becky. And we represent different parts of the country, all with the Community Ministers Network. And so we are so excited to get into today's subject matter. So glad that you tuned in. Listen, we need you to like, share, subscribe, all the things, and then like watch it a whole bunch of times so that the algorithm like brings us to the top. So got your instructions, so just
That's
make
great.
sure that you handle that for us. So, hey, my co-host, y'all looking really good and y'all got some good camera work happening. Love it. Yeah. So, Becky, tell us what's been happening in your world.
I'm about to have a 16-year-old person in my life.
What?
So putting her
Uh-oh.
behind the wheel of a car
Mm,
terrifies me.
hmm
So I am not quite ready for that. She is completely ready for it. But yes, my husband and I are, looking at all the things, looking at cars, looking at insurance, all the things, and it's terrifying.
I've gone through the 16-year-old helping them drive thing twice, and you see how much hair I have left. So,
Hey, oh Lord.
Oh,
But did you die?
oh,
did you
good
die?
question.
My prayer life is going to be exceedingly higher up on the list.
Erica, what's going
Yes.
on with you? What's on your mind?
Oh man, I've got a toddler and she is learning how to mimic our words. And the other day
Ooh.
I said, dang it. And then she said,
Oh.
dang it. And I thought, oh no, we're there. Like,
Oh
I
man, no
apologize if
more
that
cussing.
offends.
Dang it.
If that term offends anybody here, I
No more cussing.
apologize.
Wait, what's going on with you? What's going on with
Yeah,
your
tell
life?
us about you.
Oh man. Okay, so since we're talking about kids, my wife is homeschooling our 6-year-old, and that is so amazing. And the state of Arizona has like this really cool ESA program where like whatever the state would pay for your kid to be in public school, then you get that money as a homeschool parent. So
Mhm.
it's really cool. Um, so they have this website and stuff that you can get and buy. And so I come home one day and my wife's like, "Hey, we just bought a swing set." What? A whole swing set. So it's part of the physical education, part of the educational process. And so I got to spend 2.5, 3 days putting together a swing set.
Nice.
Oh,
I
there we
love it.
go. There's
Yeah.
your
It's
title
PE.
change. You're like, and
Yeah.
now I'm a swing set assembly guy, you know?
Yeah.
Listen.
No, actually, a swing
I
set
love it.
assembly engineer. Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh,
I'm sorry.
ooh. Oh, that's much more impressive.
Let's
Much
be real.
more
As
impressive.
community ministers and just people
Yeah.
in life, we're walking hat racks, and
That's
parents,
true.
we're like, let me just swap it out or stack them up
Yes.
or whatever.
Yes.
So, three cheers
I
for the
For
like
walking
that.
hat rack.
Walking hat rack. That's a new term. Thank you,
that's
Erica.
a t-shirt. That'll
For
sell.
sure, a t-shirt. So, speaking of t-shirts and putting voices on mute and just being a walking hat rack, I love that. That's going to travel so well. Today, we want to talk about compassion fatigue. And as community ministers, and really as Jesus followers, this is a real thing. And sometimes we get into a space where we experience things that we don't always have language for. And we don't have language for it, it's hard to address it. And when it's hard to address it, it's hard to mitigate it. And when it's hard to mitigate
Mm,
it, it's hard to not be overwhelmed. So,
mm,
um, we want to talk about and identify compassion fatigue amongst the community minister space, amongst the Jesus follower space. And maybe you're listening to this and you're like, community minister, Jesus follower, I'm neither one of those, but you are human and you could
mhm.
experience compassion fatigue as well. So we're going to jump into this conversation. We think that it's going to be great and beneficial for you and those that are in your circle. So let's jump into it. So
Let's
Erica,
do it.
tell me,
Yes.
give me a good hat rackish definition for compassion fatigue.
Okay, well, I am no expert in this area, but I have some people on my team that are like a therapist and a social worker. And she came to the job and was like, "Wait, you've been doing like social work and you're not a trained social worker." I'm like, correct. Yes, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many of us are walking around just trying to meet the needs, right? And we learn about scenarios and people and realities that we never knew about before. And I believe that what breaks God's heart, like our heart needs to be broken too, but
Mm.
we just don't know about what is happening kind of underneath the surface. And so I think compassion fatigue is when you are so overwhelmed with caring about other people, other realities, trying to help solve the problem that you get exhausted and you get probably to a place where, like, for me, it's like, I don't know that I can care about another thing. Like, I know I'm supposed to, I know I'm supposed to have it lead out and guide what I do and how I make a difference, but I'm exhausted. I'm not the way, I don't show up the way I want to and should at home. I don't show up the way I want to and should for people on my team, for community partners. I'm stretched thin, maybe getting a little bit resentful. I'm not paying attention to my internal compass and my internal clock about whether my cup is full, so to speak. And I saw this illustration a couple, maybe like I don't know how long ago, but at one point about kind of self-care and about how to be a good leader. And it was this image of a canteen with these lines. I think the guy Mike Foster. I don't know if you guys know him, but it was at one of his trainings, and there's these segments of it. And how to fill your canteen to be a good leader or to be the best version of yourself is to make sure you're doing something daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually that you determine before you're at this place of compassion fatigue or burnout to help you kind of proactively care for yourself and yourself as a wife, husband, daughter, son, mom, dad, kind of, or the leadership position that you have in your community or at your church. And if you declare those things and use that as a guide, you're beginning to prevent compassion fatigue and prevent burnout and remain close to empathy and figure out what is my human limitation for how much I'm able to absorb all of the maybe trauma or troubles or things that these partners or individuals or families in my community, and then have enough energy to move into action. So those are a lot of words, but that's kind of how I understand compassion fatigue. And I feel like whether we are in a current staff position where it's our job to care, or we're a highly empathetic person that's seen as a leader, you can feel like people are looking to you to declare what we're going to do to solve a problem. And you feel like you're drowning in it. Like you have, how in the world? I'm exhausted. I don't have energy to declare one more thing we're doing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the way you phrase that. And I kind of got a picture of like you mentioned something along the lines of being close to empathy, right? And as the more tired or exhausted you get, the further away you get from that empathetic heart posture. And so
Mhm.
that makes me think about the importance of boundaries, right? And so Becky, could you talk to us a little bit about how important boundaries are as it relates to compassion fatigue and what that looks like with yourself, with partners, and how do you manage those? How do you erect those? How do you adjust those boundaries and all that
Mhm.
fun stuff?
Yeah, it bleeds right into everything that Erica was saying. I really appreciate the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually example. That was amazing. Boundaries are super important.
Mm.
Without them, everything falls to pieces. I liken boundaries to, certain people are necessary. There different boundaries are necessary for certain people. So, like when you think of, here's another kind of a word picture for you. But when you think of like a parking lot and you have a drawn line in a parking space, that's a boundary. You have
Mhm.
your car in there, and they have their car in there, and it's an unspoken rule of like that paint on the line, on the pavement is a boundary.
Mhm.
And there are certain people in our lives who can, function very well within that just painted space of just an understood, like, this is your space and this is my space. But then there's other people who, might need, like a fence I mean,
Mhm.
it's a 4 foot fence and it's got, a latch on it, but it's not locked. But it's a boundary. It's a
Mm,
different boundary. There's a physical limitation of like you can't really come over here unless it's an implied invitation. And I think,
Mhm.
and then you get into like the 6 foot 5 privacy fence that has a lock on it, a padlock. And
mm,
certain people need those boundaries as well. And then there's, your house and your the door is locked and you can't come in at all, like because you're even not invited. So I think there's levels of boundaries
Mhm.
that are really important. For myself, I have always been really bad at boundaries just because of my childhood and all the things growing up. There's people who have said, like, your boundaries don't matter. And so as an adult, carrying that into not only my life, but in ministry, um,
Mhm.
it's been really hard to kind of draw boundaries with people and
Mhm.
not just acquiesce and say like, oh, you've crossed my boundary. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Like it's been really hard for me to think through. I can take up enough space for myself and to in the moment, I'm still learning this as an
Mhm.
adult of in the moment, I can say, you know what? I'm actually not okay with that and to
mm,
speak that cleanly just with the people in my life. It's harder in ministry because you want to do the good thing, you want to give all that you have, you want to have that
Mhm.
Jesus love, you want to extend yourself beyond. But I think boundaries are really good Jesus like examples of
Mhm.
Jesus gave and gave and gave, but he was not a doormat. He had
Mhm.
very specific boundaries in his life. And I
Mhm.
think that you can set those up with your coworkers, with different ministries, with partners, with all kinds of things, and feel good about the boundaries that you set because A, they're really important, B, they're
Mhm.
necessary to get you get you far in front of that compassion fatigue. Because if you constantly let your boundaries get smashed or get crossed, that's when that compassion fatigue comes in. So, in
Mhm.
my opinion, boundaries, I'm still learning them, but they're
Mhm.
essential in
Mhm.
in the works of compassion fatigue.
yeah, I totally agree. I love the word picture. Yeah, snaps. The word
Come on,
pictures that
Becky.
you drew up, like the lines in the parking lot, and then the chain link fence, and then the 6 foot fence,
Mhm.
and then the house. Like I could see that clearly. And I totally agree. Like Jesus had boundaries, right? Even like God, the creator, our creator had a boundary. It's called the Sabbath, right? You're not supposed to
Mhm.
do any work on the Sabbath day, that whole idea of resting. And Erica, we were talking earlier, you were saying that you're about to go on sabbatical, and I was on sabbatical last summer. And so
Mhm.
that's a boundary. I even think
Mhm.
about when Jesus healed the woman with the issue of blood, he was on his way to heal Jairus's daughter.
Mhm.
And um so he's talking to Jairus, and then the woman with the issue of blood touches his garment. He fully engages her, right? And then he goes to
Mhm.
Jairus's house, but he only takes Peter, James, and John into the room with him. He had
Mhm.
9 other disciples that weren't
Yeah.
able to go in. So that was a boundary. And I think
Mhm.
that in order for us to mitigate compassion fatigue. Was a weird glare in my face. Hopefully we can edit that out post. But um, boundaries are a good thing, right?
Mhm.
We are seeing boundaries being modeled in scripture, and those things enable like us to be fully present. And so I just it just makes me think about like, wow, for Jesus to be on his way to do one thing, but have the full attention for that woman with the issue of blood to fully give her what she needed, he
Mhm.
had to have some elite capacity, right? And it's
Mhm.
easy to slip into like, well, he was Jesus, and of course he
Yeah.
could do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And we're made in his image and his likeness. And
That's right.
he
Yeah.
said we would do the same works that he did, even greater works. And so I got a kind of a question that I'm gonna attempt to answer, but then I kind of want to get you guys' take on it as well. And that is like, should I feel bad about having compassion fatigue? Like there's,
Mhm.
and we even mentioned it just earlier in just our banter and a little bit of you guys' breakdown of compassion fatigue and your experiences with it. But it's like in a position of leadership, whether that be in your home or vocationally or whatever the case may be, you're looked to as this person that's
Mhm.
supposed to have the answer. Like
Mhm.
Erica, you said, you're expected to make the declaration of what the fix is for this problem. Like,
Mhm.
wow, like, and so if you're the one where you're putting all this this implied pressure or this implied expectation to have these answers and these solves for these fixes for these issues, then how could you be tired? How could you
Right.
like how could you be exhausted from doing the good work of the Lord? Like, are you really a leader? Are you really a Christian? Are you really, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
all these things,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
whoa. And so
Yep.
then I would say, yeah, it's okay to have compassion fatigue. One, it means that you're actually doing some work and
Mhm.
that you're doing something that causes you to be tired. And then like, what do we do every single night? Or,
Mm,
if you don't work a shift job, you go to sleep so that you can recharge.
Mhm.
Like
mhm,
there's not a sin or some outage in your character to be tired. When you're
mhm,
tired, you
Mhm.
take a nap, you go to sleep. It's
Mhm.
literally a part of life. So I think that compassion fatigue is a thing that we have to be aware of and recognize.
Yeah.
Um, and then our boundaries enable us to be most effective in how we deal with compassion fatigue so that we can be close to empathy. Um,
Mhm.
and so I
yeah.
would just say, yeah, like, yeah, it's okay to have compassion fatigue. And I think it's even a conduit to promote healthy community, right?
Mhm,
Right.
Now I have language for what I'm dealing with, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
short with people, and I'm not really, you know what I mean? I'm like, one more
Mhm.
thing, and being able to talk it out. Now I have some people around me that may
mhm,
be more rested or may
for
be more
sure.
experienced or whatever the case may be. So now I
Yep.
grow, and then we all achieve more because there's that vulnerability and the
Mhm,
acknowledgement of like, hey, I'm tired and I
Yeah.
need some help and what to do.
Yeah. I've got something to say about that because I feel like A, we say it around, East Side, like it's okay to not be okay. And I
Hmm.
mm,
think that's the benefit of this network is we have to find a place in our work life, our personal life, where you are in a safe place where you can admit or acknowledge or come to terms with the fact that you're not okay. We're all a work in progress, right?
yep.
But
Hmm.
boundaries, we have a responsibility. It's not our fault that we're tired, but it's our responsibility to take an inventory of what's pulling at us and
Hmm.
how can we use boundaries to protect our time, our energy, our efforts so that we can show up and be the best version of ourselves, right? And so I
Hmm.
think like there's some real practical ways that you can put boundaries in place, whether it's with your partner organizations and how requests come in or what you say yes to. I think admitting the seat that we're all in is, at least I feel the weight of, I feel like I'm representing Jesus to this person, to this organization. And gosh,
Hmm.
would Jesus would have capacity to say yes to everything. And
Hmm.
but he also would be wise and he would be able to say, I can say yes to this right now, but I have to say no to this, right? He went to the garden to
Hmm.
pray, to be alone, because he probably said no to some things in order to do that, to be recharged and or to be in the community with his disciples. And so like we have a process for partners to submit requests. A, so we
Mm,
keep an inventory. B, so we don't, lose sight of those requests. But also, it's okay to ask your partners to follow a process in order for you to be able to have all the information that you need to be able to respond and say, we will say yes or no. Like you can
Hmm.
say with your partners, there may be a season where we're not set up to be able to
mhm,
help in that way. I can't change the dynamic of my whole organization to try to become something we're not.
Yep.
Or I'm committed to putting my phone and my computer away by 5 o'clock, even though the
Mhm.
needs of the world, the community, my team will go on and on. I'm acknowledging I'm a human. I have limited capacity. I cannot lead well unless I acknowledge those things, right?
Yep.
And so it like hurts in the moment to stop being a yes man because you worry people are going to go away. But I feel like I've learned people respect you more and they
Mhm.
follow your lead. Oh, Eric, okay, well, Erica's not emailing tonight. So I make sure I'll just email her
Yep.
tomorrow and I'll spend time with my family. And it's
Mhm.
our job to set that example, you know, and to be the healthiest version of ourselves and then be honest when we're not, because everyone can see it. It's not a like you're pretending really well. No one pretends
Right.
all great, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I two things I want to add super fast because I know we're running short on time.
Mhm.
But my sister and I say all the time that no is a complete sentence, and boundaries are
Mhm.
great until they're not, until they don't work.
Mhm.
And so no is a complete sentence. And then the other thing is that when someone does cross your boundary, or you know, when they do get to a place when you're just like, golly, I have said no, and they're not accepting my no, you know, what do you do with that kind of energy, and what do you have in place that's built around? Do you have like a support system? Or you know, my go-to phraseology when someone is just not accepting my no is just to say, I need you to accept my no.
Mhm.
Because I think that there's a lot of like shame and pride that comes up in terms
Mhm.
of you know, like, gosh, I just wish, I have so much shame about saying no. But then
Mhm.
there's pride on the other side of that, of
Mhm.
you know, well, I should be able to say yes to all these things.
Mhm.
So I feel like, you know, I talk about the shame train a lot, and how,
Mhm.
you know, I envision the shame train coming into the station and just rolling out and watching it leave, because without me on it, because
Mhm.
I don't need to be on that train.
Mhm.
And it's okay to say no, and it's okay. And even when my no isn't accepted, there's an
Mhm.
opportunity just to say, I need you to accept my no. And that's
Mhm.
usually a super hard boundary that people will respect.
Sometimes I
That's so
say,
good.
I know this isn't the answer you're looking for, but
Oh,
unfortunately, right now I have to say I'm not in a place, or we're not in a place where I can really be effective in helping that way. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
clearly you're
yeah.
expecting a different answer, but I'm not able to
Yeah.
give you the one that you need,
Right.
you know?
Right.
That's so good. And I
Yeah.
love what you said too, Becky, about pride, because I get into that space a lot, like, oh, I gotta show up. They're asking me and yada yada yada. And like the Lord is always reminding me, like, hey, guy, I've been at this for a while, so pretty sure that I can supply some answers for this problem with or without
Yeah.
you. So just a reminder. And I'm like, ah, okay, yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
guy. So hey y'all,
Uh,
this has been amazing. This is an amazing
Agreed.
conversation. Listen, if you are viewing this right now, um, it's good. I know it's good. So you can just say, yeah, it's good, thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, I want you guys to check out Community Minister Network, Community Ministers Network. That's the website. Also, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Okay. We also have a yearly summit where we deep dive into subjects like
Hmm.
compassion fatigue, stuff like human trafficking, how we're connecting with schools, how we're building families, the issues of immigration and refugee families, and like all the stuff that we deal with from a community minister lens. We deep dive at a summit every single year. So there's more information regarding that summit on the website. So make sure that you go and check that out. We are so glad that y'all came and checked us out this
Yes.
week. We have some more juicy episodes coming up. Listen, these episodes are so juicy, you do not need any sauce, additives, none of that. Just log on, and I guarantee you're going to enjoy the content. So leave us some love in the comment section. We love the love. And maybe you have some prayer requests or whatever the case may be.
Mm.
But for now, we are signing off. So I bid you and your family a farewell, and don't be afraid to get salty.